Welcome back to the channel, where we uncover the untold stories behind reality TV's most dramatic families. Today, we dive into one of the most shocking scandals ever to shake the world of little people, Big World. For years, Zach and Tori Roloff appeared to be the picture-perfect couple. Fans adored their love story, their resilience, and the way they raised their children under the spotlight. But behind the cameras, a storm was brewing, one that would eventually tear their family apart. This is not just another celebrity gossip tale. This is a story of love, betrayal, financial ruin, and emotional devastation. It's a story where trust was broken, children were left crying, and lives were forever changed. Yes, you heard that right. For the past 5 months, Tori Roloff had been secretly involved in a romantic relationship with a bank named Alex. What started as a private affair soon turned into a deep romance. After learning about Tori Roloff's hidden financial troubles, Alex promised to take full responsibility for paying off her secret debt of $220,000. Following this, their bond grew even stronger. They spent several occasions together at 5-star hotels, revealing the depth of their relationship. A few weeks later, Tori Roloff discovered she was pregnant. Medical tests confirmed that the baby she was carrying shared Alex's DNA. When Zach Roloff learned the shocking news, he suffered immense emotional distress. Heated arguments and conflicts followed, leading Tori Roloff to ultimately divorce Zach Roloff. Tori Roloff made her intentions clear, greater than "I only want to marry Alex." Tori Roloff's children cried out, "Mom, please don't leave us." All they wanted was for their mother to stay by their side. But Tori did not listen to their pleas. Ignoring her children's tears and desperate requests, she walked away, holding the hand of her new husband. Unable to bear the betrayal, Zach Roloff attempted suicide. Later, he accused Tori Roloff of embezzling $190,000 of his savings and giving it to Alex. The case went to court, and after a lengthy hearing, the court found Zach Roloff's allegations to be true. As a result, Tori Roloff was sentenced to 5 months in prison. This is the story of how a reality TV romance turned into a nightmare. And tonight, we begin at the very start, when everything still looked perfect. Zach and Tori Roloff were more than just reality TV stars. They were symbols of resilience and love. From the moment they appeared on Little People, Big World, audiences connected with their authenticity. Unlike many celebrity couples, Zach and Tori seemed grounded, relatable, and deeply committed to each other. Their home was filled with laughter. Their children brought joy to millions of viewers who tuned in week after week. Fans admired how Zach, despite the challenges of dwarfism, carried himself with strength and dignity. Tori, with her warm personality, was seen as the glue that held the family together. Together, they built a brand that extended beyond television. Social media followers adored their updates, their family photos, and their candid moments. To the outside world, they were living proof that love could conquer all obstacles. But behind the smiles and Instagram posts, cracks were beginning to form. Tori carried a secret burden, financial troubles that she never revealed to Zach. Bills piled up, debts grew larger, and the pressure weighed heavily on her shoulders. Yet she kept it hidden, determined to maintain the image of a perfect family. Zach, meanwhile, remained unaware. He focused on his children, his projects, and the family's public image. He trusted Tori completely, never suspecting that she was struggling in silence. This was the calm before the storm. The Roloffs were admired, celebrated, and envied. But beneath the surface, Tori's secret would soon lead her down a path that no one could have predicted. Behind the polished smiles and carefully curated family photos, Tori Roloff was living with a secret that weighed heavier each day. To the outside world, she was the devoted wife, the loving mother, and the reality TV star who seemed to have it all. But in private, she was drowning in financial troubles that she couldn't bring herself to share with Zach. It started small: credit card bills, unexpected expenses, and the mounting costs of maintaining a lifestyle that matched the family's public image. But over time, the numbers grew larger, and the debt spiraled out of control. By the time Tori realized the full extent of her situation, she was staring at a staggering $220,000 in hidden debt. Every morning, she woke up with the same fear. What if Zach finds out? She knew how much he valued honesty, how deeply he trusted her. To admit the truth would mean shattering that trust, and she couldn't bear the thought of disappointing him. So she kept silent, burying the problem beneath layers of smiles and reassurances. But silence has a way of creating distance. Zach began to notice subtle changes in Tori. Her distracted glances, her restless nights, the way she'd avoided certain conversations. He asked if something was wrong, but Tori brushed it off, insisting she was fine. In reality, she was anything but fine. The weight of her secret pressed down on her, isolating her from the man she once confided in about everything. The perfect family image was cracking, though Zach couldn't yet see the fault lines. It was during this fragile period that Tori crossed paths with Alex, a banker whose charm and confidence seemed to offer her a lifeline. At first, their conversations were casual, financial advice, friendly banter, but soon, Alex became more than just a professional contact. He became someone who listened, someone who understood the burden she carried, someone who promised solutions when she felt trapped. For Tori, Alex represented hope. He spoke of financial freedom, of wiping away the debt that haunted her. And for a woman desperate to escape the prison of her own secrets, his words were intoxicating. The cracks in her marriage widened. Zach remained oblivious, still believing in the image of a strong, united family. But Tori was already drifting, pulled toward the man who offered her not just financial rescue, but emotional escape. This was the beginning of a dangerous path, one that would lead to betrayal, heartbreak, and scandal. The hidden struggles were no longer just about money. They were about trust, choices, and the temptation of a new life waiting just beyond the shadows. Every story of betrayal begins with a moment that feels harmless. For Tori Roloff, that moment came when she met Alex, a banker whose confidence and charm seemed to radiate from the very first conversation. It wasn't planned. Their paths crossed during what appeared to be a routine financial consultation. Tori, desperate for guidance but unwilling to reveal the full truth to Zach, sought advice from someone outside her circle. Alex was professional, attentive, and, most importantly, he listened. He didn't judge her for the mountain of debt she carried. Instead, he offered reassurance, telling her that every problem had a solution. For Tori, who had been suffocating under the weight of secrecy, Alex's words felt like oxygen. He spoke with authority, promising strategies to erase her financial troubles. But beyond the numbers and spreadsheets, there was something else, a spark that neither of them could ignore. Their meetings became more frequent. At first, they were framed as financial discussions, but slowly, the tone shifted. Alex began asking personal questions. How are you holding up? Do you feel supported at home? Tori found herself opening up in ways she hadn't with Zach. She confessed her fears, her loneliness, and the crushing guilt of hiding the truth from her husband. Alex listened intently, his gaze steady, his voice soothing. He wasn't just a banker anymore. He was becoming her confidant. And in that fragile space, where vulnerability met temptation, a bond began to form. Zach, meanwhile, remained oblivious. He trusted Tori completely, never suspecting that another man was slowly stepping into the role of emotional support. To him, their marriage was strong, their family unshakable. But in reality, Tori was already drifting, pulled toward the man who offered her not just financial rescue, but emotional escape. The turning point came when Alex made a promise that would change everything. He told Tori he would take full responsibility for her debt. The staggering $220,000 that haunted her nights, the secret she had carried alone, he vowed to erase it. That promise was more than financial relief. It was a declaration of devotion, a gesture that cemented their connection. For Tori, it felt like salvation. For Alex, it was the beginning of something far deeper than business. From that moment on, their relationship crossed the line. What began as professional advice transformed into stolen glances, late-night messages, and secret meetings. Alex wasn't just helping her with numbers, he was rewriting her future. And as their bond grew stronger, Tori's loyalty to Zach grew weaker. The arrival of Alex marked the beginning of a romance that would unravel everything the Roloff family had built. What began as whispered conversations and subtle glances soon transformed into something far more dangerous. Tori Roloff, once the devoted wife and mother admired by millions, found herself entangled in a romance that defied every vow she had ever made. With Alex, the banker who had promised to erase her crushing debt, Tori felt a freedom she hadn't experienced in years. Their meetings, once framed as professional consultations, now carried an unmistakable tension. A brush of the hand, a lingering look, a smile that lasted just a little too long. Each moment pulled them deeper into a connection that neither could deny. At first, Tori tried to convince herself it was harmless. She told herself that Alex was simply a friend, someone who understood her struggles when Zach could not. But late-night phone calls and secret rendezvous painted a different picture. The line between friendship and romance blurred, and soon, it disappeared altogether. They began meeting in places far from the public eye, quiet restaurants, secluded parks, and eventually, five-star hotels where they could escape the world and indulge in the fantasy of being together. For Tori, these encounters were intoxicating. Alex made her feel seen, cherished, and desired in ways she hadn't felt in years. But every stolen moment carried a heavy shadow. Tori knew she was betraying Zach, the man who had stood by her through countless challenges. She knew her children would never understand. Yet the pull of Alex's devotion was stronger than her guilt. He wasn't just offering her love, he was offering her a new life, free from the secrets that had haunted her. Zach, meanwhile, remained unaware. He continued to trust Tori, believing in the strength of their marriage. He posted family photos, shared joyful updates, and spoke proudly of the life they had built together. To him, their love was unshakable. To Tori, it was already slipping away. The forbidden romance grew deeper with each passing week. Alex's promise to pay off her debt became more than financial. It was symbolic. He was erasing her past, giving her a chance to start fresh. And with every kiss, every whispered declaration, Tori felt herself drifting further from the man she had once promised forever to. This was no longer just an affair. It was a love story built on secrecy, betrayal, and the dangerous allure of escape. And though Tori tried to keep it hidden, the truth was destined to surface. As the weeks passed, Tori Roloff and Alex's relationship moved beyond whispered promises and stolen glances. Their romance now unfolded in the shadows of luxury, lavish escapes that revealed just how deep their bond had become. Five-star hotels became their sanctuary. Behind closed doors, away from the eyes of the public and the cameras that once celebrated her family life, Tori indulged in a world of secrecy. The plush suites, the candlelit dinners, the quiet mornings spent together, all of it painted a picture of a life she could never have with Zach. For Tori, these moments were intoxicating. Alex wasn't just a banker. He was a man who made her feel alive again. He showered her with attention, listened to her fears, and reminded her of the woman she used to be before the weight of debt and responsibility consumed her. In his arms, she felt free, free from the guilt, free from the burden of secrecy, free from the image she had to maintain as Zach's wife. But freedom came at a cost. Every night spent in luxury was another lie told to Zach. Every secret meeting was another betrayal of the vows she had once spoken with sincerity. And though Tori tried to silence the guilt, it lingered like a shadow, reminding her that her choices were carving a path she could never turn back from. Alex, meanwhile, reveled in their romance. He wasn't just offering financial rescue anymore. He was offering her a new life. He spoke of futures together, of building a family, of rewriting the story that had once seemed so perfect on television. His promises were grand, his devotion unwavering, and Tori found herself believing in the fantasy he painted. Yet, the secrecy weighed heavily. Tori's children noticed her absences, her distracted glances, the way she seemed distant even when she was home. Zach, still trusting, brushed off her behavior as stress or exhaustion. He had no idea that while he tucked their children into bed, Tori was slipping away into a world of luxury with another man. The contrast was stark. Zach's quiet evenings at home versus Tori's hidden nights in hotel suites. The perfect family image was unraveling, though Zach remained blind to the truth. Luxury had become their escape, but it was also their prison. Every indulgence tied Tori closer to Alex, while pulling her further from the life she had built with Zach. The secrets were piling up, and the walls of deception were closing in. And soon, those walls would collapse, because no amount of luxury could hide the truth forever. Every secret eventually finds its way into the light. For Tori Roloff, the turning point came with a discovery that no amount of luxury or secrecy could hide. It began with subtle changes, fatigue, nausea, and the quiet suspicion that something was different. At first, Tori brushed it off, convincing herself it was stress or exhaustion. But as the days passed, the signs grew stronger. Deep down, she knew the truth was unavoidable. She scheduled medical tests, hoping for clarity but fearing the outcome. When the results came back, her world shifted in an instant. She was pregnant. The news alone was overwhelming, but what followed shattered every illusion she had tried to maintain. The DNA tests confirmed what she already suspected. The child she carried belonged to Alex. The revelation was explosive. For Tori, it was both a moment of joy and a wave of dread. Alex, upon hearing the news, embraced it as a sign of their future together. He spoke of family, of building a life beyond secrecy, of rewriting their story in the open. To him, the pregnancy was proof of their love. But for Tori, the reality was far more complicated. She was still married to Zach, still bound to the family that millions of viewers believed was unshakable. The pregnancy wasn't just a private matter. It was undeniable evidence of betrayal. When Zach learned the truth, his world collapsed. The man who had trusted Tori with everything, who had built a life around their love, now faced the most devastating betrayal imaginable. The heated arguments that followed were filled with anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. Zach demanded answers, but the truth was already written in the medical reports. The Roloff household, once filled with laughter and warmth, became a battlefield of emotions. The children sensed the tension, their innocent questions met with silence or tears. The perfect family image that had captivated audiences was gone, replaced by a scandal that no camera could ever fully capture. For Tori, the pregnancy forced a choice she could no longer avoid. She could continue living in secrecy, or she could embrace the future Alex promised. And in that moment, she made her intentions clear. She wanted to leave Zach behind and build a new life with Alex. The pregnancy revelation was more than just a turning point. It was the spark that ignited the collapse of everything the Roloffs had built. Trust was broken, hearts were shattered, and the path ahead promised nothing but turmoil. And as Zach struggled to process the betrayal, the cracks in their marriage widened into an unbridgeable chasm. For Zach Roloff, the revelation of Tori's pregnancy was more than just shocking. It was the complete destruction of the life he thought he knew. The man who had built his identity around family, loyalty, and trust suddenly found himself standing in the ruins of betrayal. At first, Zach refused to believe it. He clung to denial, convincing himself that the medical reports had to be wrong, that the DNA results were a mistake. But the truth was undeniable. The child Tori carried was Alex's, not his. The reality hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him gasping for air in a world that no longer made sense. The arguments that followed were explosive. Zach demanded answers, his voice trembling with rage and heartbreak. Tori, cornered by the truth, admitted what she had tried to hide for months. She confessed to the affair, to the nights spent in luxury hotels, to the promises Alex had made. Each word cut deeper than the last, tearing apart the trust that had once been the foundation of their marriage. The Roloff home, once filled with laughter and warmth, became a battlefield. Zach's anger clashed with Tori's defiance, their voices echoing through the walls as their children watched in confusion and fear. The perfect family image that had captivated audiences was gone, replaced by raw pain and shattered illusions. Zach's world collapsed in stages. First came the betrayal, then the realization that his marriage was over. Tori made her intentions clear. She wanted to leave, to build a new life with Alex, to marry the man who had promised her salvation. For Zach, it was a dagger to the heart. The children's cries only deepened his despair. "Mom, please don't leave us," they begged, their voices trembling with innocence. But Tori, blinded by her devotion to Alex, ignored their pleas. She walked away, hand in hand with her new love, leaving Zach to pick up the pieces of a broken family. Unable to bear the weight of betrayal, Zach spiraled into darkness. The man who had once stood strong in the face of challenges now found himself consumed by despair. He attempted suicide, a desperate act born from heartbreak and hopelessness. Though he survived, the scars of that moment would never fade. Zach's collapse wasn't just emotional, it was financial too. He soon discovered that Tori had embezzled $190,000 of his savings, funneling it into Alex's hands. The betrayal was complete, touching every corner of his life. The man who had once been admired for his resilience now stood broken, his world shattered by the woman he had trusted most. And as the dust settled, one truth became clear. Zach's collapse was only the beginning of a battle that would soon move from the home to the courtroom. The Roloff household had become a war zone of emotions. Zach's heartbreak was raw, his anger uncontainable, and his despair visible in every word he spoke. Tori, however, had already made up her mind. The pregnancy revelation had forced her to confront the truth she could no longer hide. Her future was not with Zach, it was with Alex. The heated arguments between husband and wife reached their breaking point. Zach pleaded with her to reconsider, to think of their children, to remember the vows they had once exchanged. His voice cracked with desperation as he begged her not to destroy the family they had built. But Tori's resolve was unshakable. "I only want to marry Alex," she declared, her words slicing through the air like a blade. Those words were final. They weren't just a rejection of Zach. They were a rejection of the life they had shared, the memories they had created, and the family they had nurtured. For Zach, it was the ultimate betrayal. For Tori, it was liberation. The divorce papers were filed swiftly. What had once been a marriage celebrated by millions of viewers now became a legal battle marked by bitterness and pain. Zach, devastated, tried to hold on to the fragments of his family, but Tori was already gone in spirit. Her heart belonged to Alex, and she refused to look back. The children, caught in the middle, became the silent victims of the divorce. Their cries echoed through the house as they begged their mother not to leave. "Mom, please don't leave us," they pleaded, their voices trembling with innocence and fear. But Tori, blinded by her devotion to Alex, ignored their pleas. She walked away, hand in hand with her new love, leaving behind the family that had once been her world. For Zach, the divorce was more than just the end of a marriage. It was the collapse of his identity. He had built his life around being a husband and father, and now both roles were slipping away. The man who had once stood strong in the face of challenges was left broken, his world shattered by betrayal. The divorce decision marked a turning point in the scandal. It wasn't just a private matter anymore. It was a public unraveling of a family that had once symbolized resilience and love. Fans who had admired Zach and Tori were left stunned, unable to reconcile the image they had seen on television with the reality unfolding behind closed doors. And as the ink dried on the divorce papers, Zach's pain deepened. The woman he had loved was gone, the family he had cherished was fractured, and the future he had envisioned was destroyed. But the worst was yet to come. In the midst of the chaos, one truth became painfully clear. The Roloff children were the silent victims of their parents' unraveling marriage. While Zach and Tori battled through betrayal, anger, and heartbreak, their children stood helpless, watching the family they once knew crumble before their eyes. The home that had once been filled with laughter now echoed with cries. The children, too young to fully understand the complexities of infidelity and financial ruin, understood only one thing: their mother was leaving. And for them, that was enough to shatter their world. "Mom, please don't leave us," they cried, their voices trembling with desperation. Their words were simple, but they carried the weight of innocence and heartbreak. They didn't care about debts or DNA tests. They didn't care about courtrooms or accusations. All they wanted was for their mother to stay, to keep the family whole, to protect the love that had once surrounded them. But Tori, blinded by her devotion to Alex, ignored their pleas. She had already chosen her path, and it led away from Zach, away from the children, and toward the man who promised her a new life. Her resolve was unshakable, even in the face of her children's tears. For Zach, the cries of his children were unbearable. He watched them cling to their mother, begging her not to go, and felt the weight of his own helplessness. He wanted to protect them, to shield them from the pain, but how could he when the very foundation of their family was collapsing? The children's tears became a haunting reminder of what had been lost. Every sob echoed through Zach's heart, deepening his despair. He had already suffered betrayal, humiliation, and financial ruin, but nothing compared to the agony of watching his children beg for a love that was slipping away. The public image of the Roloff family, once admired for resilience and unity, was shattered. Fans who had followed their journey on television could never have imagined the heartbreak unfolding behind closed doors. The children, once symbols of joy and innocence, were now caught in the storm of adult choices and broken promises. In those moments, the scandal was no longer just about Zach and Tori. It was about the children, whose tears told a story more powerful than any courtroom testimony or public statement. Their cries revealed the true cost of betrayal, the destruction of innocence, the loss of security, and the breaking of hearts too young to understand why. And as Tori walked away, hand in hand with Alex, the children's voices faded into silence. Their pleas had gone unanswered, their tears ignored. The family was broken, and nothing could undo the damage. The weight of betrayal had already crushed Zach Roloff's spirit. But the final blow came when Tori walked away, hand in hand with Alex, leaving behind the family they had built together. For Zach, the pain was unbearable. His marriage was gone, his children were heartbroken, and the woman he had trusted most had chosen another man. In the days that followed, Zach spiraled into darkness. He withdrew from friends, avoided family gatherings, and spent long hours alone, consumed by thoughts he could not escape. The once resilient man who had faced life's challenges with courage now found himself drowning in despair. Every corner of the house reminded him of what he had lost. The laughter of his children, the photographs on the walls, the memories of holidays and milestones. All of it felt like ghosts haunting him. He replayed the arguments in his mind, the moment Tori declared she only wanted Alex, and the cries of his children begging their mother not to leave. The betrayal was not just emotional, it was financial too. Zach had discovered that Tori had embezzled $190,000 of his savings, funneling it into Alex's hands. The realization deepened his anguish. Not only had she broken his heart, but she had also robbed him of the security he had worked so hard to build. Unable to bear the weight of it all, Zach reached his breaking point. In a moment of hopelessness, he attempted suicide. It was a desperate act, born from heartbreak and the crushing belief that his life no longer had meaning. Though he survived, the scars of that moment would never fade. The incident sent shockwaves through the Roloff family. Friends and relatives rallied around him, offering support, but the damage was already done. Zach's attempt revealed the depth of his pain, the extent of the betrayal, and the fragility of a man who had once been admired for his strength. For Tori, the news was met with silence. She had already chosen her path, already aligned her future with Alex. The cries of her children, the despair of her husband, none of it was enough to make her turn back. Her resolve remained unshaken, even as Zach's life hung in the balance. The attempted suicide marked the darkest chapter in the Roloff scandal. It was no longer just a story of betrayal and divorce. It was a tragedy that revealed the devastating consequences of broken trust. Zach's pain was raw, his despair undeniable, and the family's collapse complete. But the story was far from over. The scandal was about to move beyond the walls of the Roloff home and into the courtroom, where accusations of embezzlement would take center stage. The scandal that had torn apart the Roloff household was no longer confined to whispers and private arguments. It had now entered the public arena, where every detail would be scrutinized, every accusation weighed, and every truth revealed. The courtroom became the stage for the final confrontation between Zach and Tori Roloff. Zach, still reeling from betrayal and despair, stepped forward with allegations that shocked even those closest to the family. He accused Tori of embezzling $190,000 from his personal savings, money he had worked tirelessly to secure for their children's future. According to Zach, Tori had funneled the funds directly into Alex's hands, fueling the romance that had already destroyed their marriage. The courtroom was tense, filled with reporters, family members, and curious onlookers. Every word spoken carried weight, every testimony shaping the narrative of a family once admired by millions. Zach's lawyers presented evidence, bank statements, transfers, and records that painted a damning picture of betrayal. Tori, seated across from him, maintained her composure. She denied the accusations at first, insisting that Zach's claims were exaggerated, born from heartbreak and anger. But as the evidence mounted, her defenses began to crumble. Witnesses testified, documents were examined, and the truth slowly came into focus. For Zach, the trial was more than just about money. It was about justice. He wanted the world to see the betrayal he had endured, the financial ruin that had compounded his emotional devastation. He wanted accountability, not just for himself, but for the children who had been left behind in the wake of their mother's choices. The judge listened carefully, weighing the evidence with precision. The hearing stretched on for weeks, each day peeling back another layer of the scandal. Fans who had once adored the Roloffs watched in disbelief as the family's darkest secrets were laid bare in a court of law. Finally, after lengthy deliberations, the verdict was delivered. The court found Zach's allegations to be true. Tori had indeed embezzled $190,000 of his savings, transferring it to Alex in a betrayal that was both financial and emotional. The ruling was devastating for Tori. Not only had she lost her marriage and fractured her family, but now she faced the consequences of her actions in the eyes of the law. The judge sentenced her to 5 months in prison, a punishment that marked the final chapter of her downfall. The courtroom battle had ended, but the scars it left behind would never fade. Zach had won justice, but at a cost that no verdict could ever repair. The Roloff family, once a symbol of resilience, was now a cautionary tale of betrayal, scandal, and the devastating consequences of broken trust. The courtroom verdict had been delivered, and the weight of justice fell squarely on Tori Roloff's shoulders. Once celebrated as a devoted wife and mother, she now stood convicted of embezzling $190,000 from Zach's savings. A betrayal that had destroyed her marriage, fractured her family, and shocked the millions who had followed their journey on television. The judge's words were final: 5 months in prison. The sentence echoed through the courtroom, silencing the whispers of reporters and leaving Tori visibly shaken. For the first time, the reality of her choices was undeniable. The affair, the lies, the financial deception, all of it had led her to this moment. As she was escorted away, the contrast was stark. Tori, once admired for her warmth and resilience, now wore the expression of a woman facing the consequences of her actions. The cameras that had once captured her smiling family moments now documented her downfall, turning her into a cautionary tale of betrayal and scandal. For Zach, the ruling brought a bittersweet sense of justice. He had fought tirelessly to expose the truth, to prove that the woman he had trusted most had betrayed him not only emotionally but financially. The court's decision validated his pain, but it did little to heal the wounds left behind. His marriage was gone, his children were scared, and his own spirit bore the marks of despair. The children, too, struggled to comprehend the reality. Their mother, who had once been their source of comfort, was now absent, serving time behind bars. Their cries of "Mom, please don't leave us," had gone unanswered, and now they faced the harsh truth that she was gone, not by choice this time, but by consequence. Meanwhile, Alex remained in the shadows. Though he had been the catalyst for Tori's choices, the courtroom focused on her actions alone. He had promised her salvation, but in the end, it was Tori who bore the punishment. Their romance, once painted in secrecy and luxury, now seemed tainted by the reality of prison walls. The prison sentence marked the final chapter of the Roloff scandal. It was the culmination of months of secrecy, betrayal, and heartbreak. The family that had once symbolized resilience and love was now remembered for scandal and tragedy. For fans, the story was almost unbelievable. The Roloffs had been admired for their authenticity, their ability to overcome challenges, and their devotion to family. But behind the cameras, the truth had been far darker. And now, with Tori behind bars, the illusion was shattered forever. The prison sentence wasn't just the end of Tori's freedom. It was the end of the Roloff family as the world had once known it. And so, the story of Zach and Tori Roloff reaches its tragic conclusion. What began as a picture-perfect family admired by millions ended in betrayal, heartbreak, and scandal. Tori's secret romance with Alex, the banker who promised her salvation, ultimately destroyed everything she had built with Zach. The affair led to pregnancy, divorce, embezzlement, and finally, a prison sentence that shocked fans across the world. But as the dust settles, the questions remain. Was Tori truly in love with Alex, or was she simply desperate to escape the crushing weight of her financial troubles? Did Alex genuinely care for her, or was he using her vulnerability to his advantage? And what about Zach? Could he have done more to see the warning signs, or was he blindsided by a betrayal no one could have predicted? The children's cries echo in the background of this story. "Mom, please don't leave us." Their voices remind us that scandals are never just about the adults. They leave scars on the innocent hearts caught in the middle. Will those children ever heal from the pain of watching their family collapse? Or will this chapter define their lives forever? And then there's the question of redemption. Tori now faces 5 months in prison, a punishment that marks the end of her freedom. But what happens after? Will she return to her family, seeking forgiveness and reconciliation? Or will she continue down the path she chose, building a new life with Alex despite the destruction left behind? For Zach, the battle may be legally won, but emotionally, the wounds remain. Can he rebuild his life after such devastation? Will he find strength in his children, or will the scars of betrayal haunt him for years to come? This scandal forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about love, loyalty, and trust. How much can a marriage endure before it breaks? How far will someone go to escape their struggles? And when betrayal becomes public, can anyone truly recover from the fallout? Now, we turn the questions over to you. Do you believe Tori was justified in leaving Zach for Alex, given her financial struggles? Was Zach right to take the battle to court, or should he have walked away quietly? Can a family ever recover from betrayal this deep, or is the damage permanent? And most importantly, what would you have done if you were in Zach's shoes? The Roloff scandal may be over, but the conversation is just beginning. More update. Amy Roloff admits pain of Matt and Karen relationship. And Amy Roloff brings fans into her amazing vacation. And Tori Roloff puts Zach's shortcomings on blast. Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler delay dream wedding. Why? I will explain everything. Even though little people, big world star Amy Roloff is contentedly moving on with Chris Merrick, Matt Roloff is still in pain. This is particularly true now that Matt and Karen Chandler have formally announced their engagement. How does Amy actually feel about this, then? It's inevitable that Amy and Matt Roloff will irritate one another. Fans of Little People, Big World have witnessed this in recent moments as they attempt to organize a fundraiser. Amy and Matt are still at odds after all these years, even after they have moved on with other people. It's said that having too many cooks in the kitchen is a bad idea. Amy and Matt are constantly fighting for control over whatever they do. Given how intense their relationship can get, it's simple to forget that they were ever together in the first place. After 28 years of marriage, raising 4 children together, and creating a life with someone for so long, it is impossible to fully remove them from your life. Every so often, Amy and Chris come to Roloff Farms to hang out with Matt and Karen Chandler. Additionally, Amy Roloff continues to have Matt Roloff's last name, and their children and grandkids will continue to be connected to one another. Amy Roloff has even admitted in recent scenes from Little People, Big World that things are still kind of awkward around her ex-husband. Amy continued by saying she doesn't need to know any private information about Matt and Karen's engagement or relationship. Holding on to any drama was not necessary, she added. There was a lot of controversy in earlier Little People Big World moments because Amy's engagement diamond was smaller than Karen Chandler's. She did her best to brush it aside, but it was clear that this annoyed her a little. Amy Roloff is candid when she says that her memories of Matt Roloff will always be with her, regardless of what happens. It will continue to affect me until the day I die, Amy stated. You do the best you can, according to her. Amy also apologized for Matt's decision to rent out their Roloff Farms family home. They brought their kids up in this house. It should be occupied by a family, not by short-term visitors, in her opinion, although Amy has stated that. She makes an effort to be cordial in her contacts with Karen Chandler. Many Little People Big World viewers can tell that there is some animosity and bitterness present. Amy and Karen Chandler will always be connected via Matt, whether she likes it or not. Recently, Karen stated, Amy and I will always have Matt in common through good times and bad, no matter what. We have been with Matt for eternity. LPBW. Amy Roloff brings fans into her amazing vacation. Amy Roloff, who stars in Little People, Big World, has been enjoying her Michigan vacation to the fullest. With her family, she has been sharing videos and photos of her adventures. She may or may not be returning home soon. Even though she is still married to Chris Merrick, he has returned to Oregon. The 60-year-old wife recently posted a series of heartwarming photographs and memories from her native state to share with her significant other. Amy posted a photo from her morning at the lake on social media. A fan of pontoon boats, water skiers, and fishing rowboats, the LPBW star says she enjoys spending time at the lake. The water's sound and scent, she said, were her favorite things. It's obvious that the TLC singer is deeply enjoying her vacation in her home state. In addition to helping promote a nearby bookstore and clearing bushes from the cottage they are staying at, she has also performed acts of kindness. Weeks have passed since Amy and her husband took a trip to Michigan. There appear to be instances among her many accomplishments that she will never forget. A long statement detailing her remarkable experiences was just posted by the LPBW star. She disclosed that they spent the first week of their vacation with Chris' relatives and the second week with her own. According to the mother of four, her favorite spots include the Grand Hotel in Mackinac Island. "I thought it was beautiful. It transports you to another era, and I adored it," she continued. Amy Roloff also made sure to give her husband, who is already back at their home in Oregon, a huge shout-out. "Spending time here with Chris was an incredible experience that elevated my home state vacation to a whole new level. I love you, Chris," the devoted wife espoused. Amy still hasn't announced a return date to Hillsboro, Oregon, to rejoin her spouse. But last we checked, she still hasn't left her home state, according to her photos. The reality TV star also posted a stunning photo of the lake close to their cottage, captioning it "Lake Life." A few days ago, Amy Roloff also reconnected with her father, but she failed to share any photos of the two of them. In spite of her husband's early departure, she is clearly enjoying her stay. LPBW Tori Roloff puts Zach's shortcomings on blast. Tori Roloff, a Little People Big World celebrity, publicly disparaged Zach Roloff. So what are fans saying about Tori's remarks on her husband? Since declaring their intention to leave the family TLC program after season 25, Zach and Tori Roloff, stars of Little People, Big World, have been pursuing their own endeavors. Many fans, even in those days, believe that Zach and Tori's resignation was the last straw. Amy Roloff finally spoke up about the current state of affairs based on the latest Little People, Big World updates. There are currently no plans to film any further Little People, Big World scenes, she stated. Thus, in a lot of ways, everything started when Zach and Tori left. Anyone who follows Zach or Tori Roloff on social media is aware that people frequently search for reasons to make fun of them. That is something that is always available. But according to the latest information, Tori took matters into her own hands and openly criticized her husband. What did she say then? Recently, Tori Roloff participated in the Suspect Challenge on Instagram and TikTok. This is a problem when people call their significant others suspects, and then describe the suspect by pointing out some of their peculiarities or undesirable habits. As it happens, Tori gave Zach the opportunity to be the suspect. Tori Roloff claims that she stated, "Suspect, 34, and still only knows to make cereal and scrambled eggs." This was just one of many things Tori did, and she didn't think twice about criticizing her husband. Zach Roloff and Tori Roloff are easily roasted by Little People, Big World fans every day. Nonetheless, a number of individuals expressed their opinions regarding Tori effectively making fun of Zach for them. Who would want their children to grow up believing it's okay that their father never learned to cook? Asked one user. "It's a fundamental life skill." "After 9 years?" remarked another responder. "Posting that would have made me feel so ashamed." A third individual added, "OMG. This is a lot. It's all bad. What the? It's embarrassing for them both." "How embarrassing?" exclaimed a fourth individual. "How is it possible for someone to acknowledge those things?" LPBW, Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler delay dream wedding. Why? Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler, famous faces from Little People Big World, have been planning to tie the knot in 2024. Since they became engaged, this has been true. Their ideal wedding may have to take a back seat, though, according to the most recent rumors. So where does this stand at the moment? Season 25 of Little People, Big World featured the engagement of Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler. As viewers could see, TLC made a huge deal out of Amy Roloff's requests to see the ring and other things. Fans of Little People, Big World are still deeply divided about Karen Chandler. On the other side, she has supported Matt through his most difficult times over the past few years. Therefore, it is not surprising that these two will finally tie the knot. After news of Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler's Little People Big World engagement broke, fans naturally wanted to know when the big day would finally arrive. When you think about how season 25 concluded, this becomes even more apparent. The Little People Big World series future is uncertain in light of Zach and Tori Roloff's announced departure. Many viewers would be thrilled to see a wedding special, something the network has done before, even if the show is ultimately canceled. The original plan all along was for Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler to tie the knot in the year 2024. The most recent rumor, however, suggests that these intentions are now shelved permanently. An insider recently spilled the beans that Matt Roloff's mom's increasing need for a lot of extra care as she ages is the root cause of the delay. According to the source who spoke with the U.S. Sun, Karen and Matt's wedding was supposed to be set for May, but it is currently delayed with no scheduled date other than possibly at the end of the year. The couple has been talking about having their wedding in Hawaii, but they are still exploring different options and are in the early stages of planning. They opted to put it off since, as an elderly woman, Matt's mom is currently requiring a great deal of extra care, the insider stated. They haven't had enough time to prepare for a wedding this year, and pumpkin season is just around the corner. It would appear that the wedding is currently on hold due to the many commitments that both Karen and Matt have. Therefore, keep an eye on the scenario, particularly if they do decide on a date in the future. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.